So she says, do you want to search the car? I immediately looked up. Word to the wise, never, ever consent to your car being searched, Joe. I'm not a lawyer, but correct?
Well, yeah, that's the short answer. You got to see the window that she's coming through in that, hey, I got nothing to hide. But the only problem with that is most of the time the police are the ones saying, well, if you don't have anything to hide, I should be able to search it. No, you should not be able to search it. And so now, if you feel like it's a matter of life or death and something's happening or whatever else, you might have to make some kind of decision related to that. But yeah, generally speaking, no, you don't. You certainly don't offer. And when they don't have a right to search, when there's none of the incidences that give them occasion to search, part of, incident to a lawful arrest, probable cause / reasonable suspicion, 3 or 4 instances under which they have a right to search. So my thing is, if you got a right to search, that's one thing. We can have that argument later on, but it's not going to be because I told you that you could search or that I offered that you could search. If they don't have a right to search and they're asking to search, that suggests to me that they don't have a right to search. And so therefore, not only are you not necessarily telling them that they can search, but you're also not offering them the right to search. Okay. So yeah, I see the window that she's coming through. It seems like, of course, she was bothered, etc. But from a safety standpoint, she came out well, and she's gonna, bring legal action, etc. But generally speaking, no. If they don't have the ability to search without my consent, they're not gonna get it with my consent.
Mateo, also, we don't have to disclose a lot of information. I mean, there was also a lot of oversharing. That's one of those things where you say, do you need my information? Like, I'm not about to explain to you what actually happened. Because again, listen, they may use this against you. The other thing about searching vehicle, listen, we did the story, I think it was in Florida, where this cop actually tossed a bottle of alcohol into the vehicle and arrested the guy. No, hell no. Y'all can't open shit. Y'all ain't opening the door, the trunk. You ain't looking at nothing. You gonna have to establish probable cause if you think you gonna look in my car.
Yeah, I mean, from a human perspective, I can understand how a person that's not accustomed to encounters with law enforcement feels under pressure and may volunteer that. That is the number, not even the number 1 rule, it's the number 0 rule. You do not offer because they need, a reason to search, right? It also could potentially hinder her lawsuit. So it could hinder her options or her odds of getting relief in civil court. Again, I understand how, from a human perspective, she felt under pressure, and she said that it's a huge mistake, and it's a huge mistake because it gives a reason for the officer to continue, especially if the officer, and again, from a human perspective, if the officer felt that the person was being disrespectful. We all know how these things go. Officers way too often feel like they need to have the upper hand. They cannot be humiliated by a citizen. And so it can lead to worse things. So keep your mouth shut, know what your rights are, and certainly keep your door shut unless there is a reason for an officer, a legal reason for an officer to search.
And again, so the whole point there, Mustafa, if you're given a lawful command, I know what it is in Texas. If you're giving a lawful command, you have to obey. That's how the cop, that's how he trapped Sandra Bland. When he gave the lawful command for her to exit the vehicle and she refused to do so, that's what led to the arrest. And we know, of course, she died there in jail. But hey, if the cops say, can I search your vehicle? Hell no, you can't search my damn vehicle.
Yeah, 4 words. Hell to the no.
Hell to the no.
That's right.
It's really simple, Right. You don't have to go to law school to understand this stuff. Yes, you have to follow the law if there's a command, but you don't want to give anybody anything, especially if you know that you haven't done anything. And if you have done something, you definitely don't want to. And I'm not encouraging the latter behavior. But we also have to understand that when a police officer pulls you over and you are a person of color, there are also another set of dynamics, because we remember Daquan Johnson up there in Michigan, and we remember a number of other people who didn't do anything wrong but lost their lives. So we have to be mindful of those dynamics, but we also have to be mindful that we have rights, just like every other person inside this country, and that we should utilize those to make sure that we're not incriminating ourselves or putting ourselves in a situation. Because yes, most police officers are probably decent individuals, but of course there are some who should not be police officers and have been known to do some things that are nefarious, at least. So hell to the no.